What's up guys, ZRUS here, and I am starting part 3 of the Type 53 Mosin nagant refinishing. I've gotten the wood as prepped as I can get it, and we're going to go ahead and start with this pre-stain by Minwax, and this basically helps to prevent the stain from blotching so much, and it kind of pulls the grain out of the wood so that you can see a nice definition of grain in there. And then we're going to be using this single stage satin polyurethane by Minwax. And this is the antique walnut satin. Alright, so the pre-stain really doesn't require much brain power at all to do this step. And what you do is you just soak your cloth here in the pre-stain, and you just coat this just as generously as you can do it. And then you let it all soak in there. And after you've let it soak in there, you just come back about 5 minutes later and just wipe off the excess residue that's left over from the pre-stain. This really isn't the hardest task at all. This is probably the easiest job of this whole thing. So that's it. So I've just wiped off the excess pre-stain. Not too difficult. And right now we're going to go ahead and start with our first layer. You just want to get a nice thin layer over the whole wood stock, but you don't want to try to get your final product on your first coat. And how I usually do it is I start from the top and just work my way down, and just basically just apply a nice layer all the way around the wood stock here. And you can see it's already started turning the stock a different color. And this is just, like I said, just the first coat. So don't try to get your end result out of your first coat. It's never gonna work out for you. Well, I got my first coat on here, and it looks pretty good so far. It laid out there nicely. So the only thing that sucks about this is that once you put one coat on, you actually have to wait about 6 hours for this stuff to cure. So it looks like I'll be waiting a little bit, but in the meantime, I'll give you a word of caution. Whenever you're wiping this down, the rag will actually squeegee itself onto these shelves, stuff like this. So what you'll wind up having is puddling and pooling, and it will actually drip and run if you wipe it over and over. So make sure you catch that stuff while it's wet and wipe it off there with the dry side of your rag. Also, a word of note is to always wipe with the grain, and you'll also wind up with some puddling inside of areas like this, and down here in the magazine well, trigger housing, and on the back side here where the screws and everything all mount. So just a word of advice is just to catch that stuff while it's wet and wipe it off. Otherwise, like I said, it'll start to run down. So got my first coat on here, and looks like I'll be waiting for this stuff to cure. I'll be back 6 hours later. Don't you go anywhere. Alright guys, so my previous coat is now dried up, but upon inspecting this, and if you take your fingertips and just kind of glide through while making sure this is all dried up, is you can feel little fibers kind of poking through the finish. And being that this is the first coat, you want to take care of that stuff now. And how you do so is you take really extremely fine, which is 000 steel wool, and you go through and you just barely, you're not trying to rub the finish off of here, but you can feel it snagging on the steel wool, and just kind of give that a couple of swipes there until you don't feel it snagging anymore, and the steel wool will get rid of that stuff. So, alright, so I've taken a vacuum cleaner hose to the whole stock and gotten rid of any fibers from the steel wool, so that they don't get caught into this next coat. And we'll just go ahead and start with the second coat. This is really tedious work, so if you're not one for tedious work, this probably isn't for you.
Here's a second coat laid on. You can see it's getting a little bit darker now. So I'm gonna have to wait about 6 hours before I can touch this thing again. So I'll get ready to go to work and come back and lay on another coat. But it looks like it's gonna be pretty nice whenever I get done. And you can see with the patch job here, it seems to be dyeing, or seems to be staining along with the same colors as the blondes in there, but I think because it's located in that dark patch is the only reason it's really standing out. So I might put a marker to that one and see how that turns out. So, but, well, 6 hours from now. And here is the third coat. It's getting a little bit darker. And the fourth coat. And one real quick word of advice for you guys that are new to this is that if you start wiping a layer on and you start to notice it tacking up on you, you better hurry up. That's an indicator that it's starting to dry out on you. Now that doesn't mean add more because you'll wind up just leaving streaks. But if it starts to tack up on you, you need to hurry up and get done with that layer that you're putting on. Because you can actually wind up just smearing the layer that you're putting on. So that's just a quick word of advice. But here's the fourth coat. Here's coat number 5, and it is getting ever so slightly darker, and it looks pretty good so far. I'm digging the satin finish on it. I'm not really a big fan of high gloss rifles, especially on these old wartime rifles. But not looking too bad. Coat number 5. And coat number 6. I got one more coat to go. And I think what I'm going to do with that coat is I am not going to do this top portion up here. Because I don't know if you can tell or not, but standing back and looking at it, you can really see it's just a little bit darker than the rest of it. So on my 7th coat, what I'm going to do is just do the bottom portion and leave out the top portion and see if that color matches it just a little bit better. Here we go with coat number 7. And I don't think I'm going to put another layer on. I think I'm just going to let this one cure up. It doesn't look like the top up there is too much darker than the rest of it now, so I might just leave it just how it is. And that patch job down there, if that really sucks, that's located in a dark area because it looked like it dyed or it stained as well as the rest of the wood stock. So, but should be putting it together here soon.